Welcome, everyone, to today's show. I have a treat for you. I've got two wonderful gentlemen that you've heard before with me again, as he's looking around the room wondering if I'm talking about him. We've got Doug Sandler and Michael Neely. Today's show is going to be on the topic of collaboration, not competition, but coming at it from a couple different points of view. Yes, we're going to talk about business, so that if you don't have a business, don't worry. We're going to talk about it also from the position of friendship, from dating, from health, as well as wealth. And we're going to just take this conversation to each direction so that way you can get a sense of the difference between scarcity and abundance. But for today's topic, I'm putting it in terms of collaboration, not competition. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us. I'm excited to be here. How about you, Dougie?
That's the quietest I've ever been, isn't it?
It really is. It's the longest you've ever taken
that was really
talk
good.
on a microphone.
Normally he's talking as soon as you start yourself.
I know. I didn't know where to begin. I don't know. Well, I'm just happy to be here. Thank you for having me one more time, JJ.
So this episode actually was already recorded at one point. We did it on a Zoom call, and I wasn't crazy about the quality of the audio, and we're all in person right now and together, which is way more fun to do anyway. But I know that there was divine timing in this because originally we recorded it for the Health and Wealth show. So for those of you that are listening to Health and Wealth, hey, for those of you that don't know, I have a new show launched this year called Health and Wealth. And that show was actually started out of a desire to do money differently and do business differently. And I have to give a little credit here to Michael, because Michael and I had a conversation last year before I launched the show, and we were at an event and we were listening to the speaker and the presentation and the way that they were sort of holding their event. And we felt a lot of scarcity, a lot of the person in charge feeling threatened by everybody else's expertise or offerings, and we didn't like it. And we were trying to decide on how we could take podcasting, take business, take our entrepreneurial endeavors and do it differently with a different energy. And so I remember driving home and calling Michael and leaving this message because I was so fired up about not liking this, right? And so contrast, just as an overall teaching lesson right now, right? Contrast helps you to clarify. The contrast was I didn't like the feeling of control, the feeling of scarcity, the feeling of shaming, the feeling of not standing in your power and then just allowing others to decide if they're right for you or not. It all felt really bad. And from there, my top three things were leading with abundance, not scarcity, collaboration, not competition. And then what came to me next for me was building wealth without sacrificing your health. And out of that conversation came my mastermind. Like I literally, that whole context created a platform for me to deliver a mastermind that then I offered a month later to my tribe and now have active. So thanks, Michael.
You're very welcome. How much is my credit good for?
What's even worse is I had nothing to contribute to this, so I'm not even sure why I'm here.
Well, you're here because I think that we also exemplify an example of collaboration and not competition. You know, we're all podcasters, and many times in business, we support each other in business and in the same business. We just got done recording 2 episodes, one where Michael had us on talking about coaching and choosing the right coach in podcasting. And Doug and I are podcast coaches along with Michael. And then Doug just did an episode for his show about podcast coaching, and Michael and I are podcast coaches. And so here we all are doing some of the same things, but supporting each other because we're coming from abundance, not scarcity. And so today's show, I just really want to utilize this framework for all aspects of life so that you can start to see things a little bit different and you can open up to possibility instead of problems. You can open up to not having as much resistance, and you can see from a different vantage point how there's enough to go around. There's enough for everybody. And Michael, I'd love to start off today by you giving that quote or that fact about lists and collaboration and joint ventures, how when you sell to your list, only a certain percentage buy.
I love this.
Yeah, can you share that with everybody?
Yeah, this for me was game-changing for me, just hearing it from you, Michael. And I know that it's not necessarily your original thought, but what's so great about it was exactly how much impact that this thought had on how I now look at. I always knew I was looking at things differently, but I didn't know why. And then you just share what you shared, and then I'll chime in afterwards.
Yeah, well, and the first time I heard it, it really stuck with me because of that same thing, Doug. And it is the fact that if you look at your list, and I heard this first time from someone who had a list of over 100,000 people, maybe even more, 200, 250,000 people. And on stage, he's saying, how many people on my list do you think have ever bought anything from me? And people were throwing out numbers, 5%, 10%. He's like, 1%, maybe 2%. And that is a very low percentage, but that means also 98 to 99% of those people in that list have not and probably will not ever buy anything from you. Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing he said about the list was, I know for a fact that everybody, let's use ours as an example, I know that everybody on my list is interested in podcasting, but not everybody's bought from me. A very small percentage has. Well, if Doug comes along and says, hey, Michael, would you promote my podcasting course? Now, I could be scarcity-minded and go, no, that's my audience. And the truth is, though, this 98% is still not going to buy from me. So who better to partner with than someone who's teaching the same thing? Yeah. I will serve that other 98% who maybe for whatever reason they didn't resonate with my stuff or they weren't ready right now. Maybe Doug's is what they're looking for. So yes, I want to share with other people who have a similar offering. It makes sense.
Yeah, I would just add to that initially, if this is not your philosophy, if you're listening to this and that doesn't make sense. You're direct competitors with Michael. What would be the purpose of that? And if you listen really carefully to the statistics, only 1 or 2% are going to possibly buy what you have. The other 98%, why don't you open up to the rest of the world? You actually are approaching your list, or those that you know, your connections if you don't have a list. You're approaching them with an attitude of serving. How can I best serve those people that are in my community, those that I know? And if you put away that scarcity mindset that says, I'm protecting my list, I'm protecting my contacts, because if I share Michael with them, maybe they're going to like Michael more than me. And the reality of it is, that's okay. I think that if we all, the mindset that I'm in is if we all rise, with this tide together, it will raise all of the ships that are together, and we can approach podcasting, Michael in my case, from a perspective of everybody is going to improve and get better. So, and then if I say, well, wait a minute, if I help Michael, I actually can profit a little bit from that too. So it's not just from a standpoint of being able to give an altruistic perspective. Maybe it's more of let me look at this selfishly. I got 98%. They're not going to buy from me. Why don't I try to make a little bit more and share them with Michael? And maybe there's an opportunity. So from both standpoints, from a business standpoint and from a personal and community perspective, you're actually doing your business and your community better by opening up to a collaborative opportunity and understanding that collaboration actually will get you far more places than competition and scarcity.
I want to bring this to the person who doesn't have a business. Let's talk about this mindset in a I work for somebody else kind of way. Many times I find in people that are employees and they're up for, let's say, a promotion, and maybe they're up against other people, they're from the scarcity perspective, you're willing to have a certain lack of integrity within your own self. Now, I'm not calling any of you lack of integrity. I'm just saying there's a possibility that if Doug is my boss and Michael and I are up for the same job and I feel threatened because I feel like Michael's a better fit, but I really want the job. And now I'm going to do other things that I wouldn't normally do to try to get Doug's attention or to get to look like the better candidate because I want to win, because I want to get this money, right? There's an aspect of that again is scarcity based, of thinking that this is the one and only opportunity for me and there's no other opportunities. And so I would invite you, if you are an employee, to take this on for a second, because know that there are thousands of opportunities. And if you're not in an alignment with it, if you're not attuned to it, you're not seeing it. You're just seeing this one job opportunity as a way for you to make more money finally and to be recognized. Or in the case of, let's say, entertainment, like I'm thinking about people who audition. And I'll never forget an Abraham audio that I heard about an actor who was auditioning. And it's the difference of walking into an audition, giving your power away by saying, I'll be whatever you want me to be because you're more important than I am, versus I'm going to be who I am and I'm hoping I'm the right fit. And if I'm not the right fit, that's okay. And I'm going to hold out for the right fit because it'll feel better for me and it'll honor who I am. So just know that this, what we're talking about in terms of lists and emails, if you don't have a business, this can be translated into your job. Are you holding on to your job because of scarcity thinking that there's nothing else out there for me and I wouldn't know how to survive or make any money? Or are you doing it because you truly love what you do? You're comfortable. Maybe you're not ready to be an entrepreneur and you never will be. There are people who definitely should never be entrepreneurs. But that doesn't mean that the job you have, while there are things that you can improve about the way that you look at it or think about it or talk about it, if you treat it as if it's the only opportunity in life that you have to make any money, that is a scarcity underbelly, which is going to be uncomfortable. And then it's going to create opportunity for you to do things you wouldn't normally do outside of your comfort zone and integrity, which will eat away at you slowly. And it'll show up in your relationships. It'll show up in your health. It'll show up in how you spend money. So just know that I want you to apply these principles that we're talking about, no matter if you have a business or not, because I look at this relationship that we have. And here's the thing, we love each other as people. And so because of that, we want to support each other. There are plenty of other people who do what Michael and Doug do or do what I do that we don't promote. And part of it is because maybe we don't believe in their integrity. Maybe we think that they're only out for the money. They don't care as deeply as we do about our clients. What do you guys think about that?
I would say that's 100% true. And actually what you're saying too, JJ, reminded me of an incident that has happened actually a couple of times now as I think back on it, that is a testimony to that piece of collaboration. I've had people come to me and say, Michael, I'm looking to do this and that with my business, and I heard that you were a good coach for that. And there have been times when I've said, you know what, I'm pretty good at that, but I know someone who's better for what you need, and I've sent that person along. And now what has happened is, the truth is, yes, I did not make money on that client, but it paid off in so many other ways, because again, when someone feels that you're doing it in service to them, then they're going to really kind of fall in love with you. They're going to go, wow, that's so in integrity. They've referred me other people because of it. And then the person that I sent them to also was like, wow, okay, if there's somebody comes to me that I'm not perfect for, I'll send them Michael's way. So when you start to put what the person's needs are above what yours are and your scarcity thinking, it shifts everything.
Well, why don't you pose the question again so that I understand from the perspective of what you want me to answer? Because I love Michael's answer, and I love the idea of putting the needs of someone else above your own needs when it comes to business. From a personal perspective, I'm curious where you want to head.
Well, I'm thinking about you in some of your relationships. Now, there were positive and negatives to some of the things that, like, say, in the last couple of years that I've witnessed you do. One of the things that I love about some of the relationships and businesses that you've created is that you went into it saying, I don't know where the money is.
We'll find it.
But we'll find it.
We'll find it somewhere, but let's figure out how we can help each other or work together.
And most of the time, those always work out, at least if not as a financial reward, but they work out to discover something new so that you know a new boundary, you're more clear on something, but you're very open in your wanting to give and wanting to explore and not necessarily needing to be paid up front or know what the dollars and the cents are. It's a very abundant way of thinking and trusting that I like you, I'm excited about this project. Let's just see where it goes.
Well, I've developed, and I go back to probably the mid 1990s with this attitude of, I don't know where the money is coming from, but let's figure it out. I find that if I start with the relationship first, it always works out. No matter what. It may not have worked out where I originally thought and intended. Like, I was involved in an entertainment company back in DC before I got into podcasting, and I went into it with the idea that they were going to represent my DJ business. And what had evolved was, yes, my DJ business significantly increased, but I developed so many other partnerships with them that were dwarfed the financial income that I was able to get from just that DJ business into all of these other partnerships. If we approach everything as how can we collaborate together? What is the best way? How can I best serve you? I keep coming back to Jay Facette's mentality of I'll go first. And when you come back to that I'll go first mentality in a JV, a joint venture partnership, you always end up working out, because your partner, or the genuine ones, the partners that you say that to, you start to figure out, okay, what is it the best way for me to serve them? And oftentimes they'll come back to you with, wow, you've really done a great job of helping me. How can I serve you? And even then I'll say, I don't really know, but maybe we'll figure that out as well. Just keep me in your mind.
When I first started my business and I got involved in networking situations where, for those of you that are not entrepreneurs, when you want to promote your business, if you're doing anything, especially if you're working with clients, you might join a chamber of commerce or some kind of group, a leads group, a LATIP, there's so many of them, BNI, where you go and you have a meal with people and you share your business in hopes to get referrals and clients. And there was a night and day difference to some approaches. The majority of them approach it from I'm there to get.
Right.
And when 30 people come into a room to get something, they're I-minded, they're scarcity driven, I need to get business. Just for a second, put that energy on. I'm there to get something. If everyone's there to get something, how many people do you actually think get something? Because everybody's there to get something. So there's a little bit of resistance because everybody's so super focused on getting. Now flip it and go there to give. Now if 30 people come into a room and they're there to give something, who's going to get something? Everybody.
Well, that's the nature of a very, very well-run joint venture or networking meeting. That's the benefit of going into I'm competing against the same job for the same job with Michael, and encouraging Michael as we're going through this process is, hey, I hope you get it. I hope I get it. I'm not sure who's going to get it here, but let's just do our best together, and whatever I can do to support you. It's interesting because when you reach that fork in the road, sometimes it was not the job that you actually wanted that was the positive way to go. Sometimes you're not getting the position, the attitude of why is this happening for me as opposed to why is this happening to me? If you don't get the job, maybe there was a reason you weren't supposed to get the job. And I'm not saying approach it from the perspective of you're not going to get the job, but how about think no matter what the outcome, this is going to be amazing. Because it's going to open up a new opportunity. Maybe that opportunity for that new job isn't an opening up for me because maybe my higher calling is to something else. And maybe if Michael and I joint venture in something, or maybe if we're competing in something and he gets it, maybe that was not given to me because there's something that was a better purpose. I had a very large 6-figure relationship recently break down because I didn't like how I was treated within that relationship. So many things. Now, many people would say, oh my gosh, you lost a 6-figure opportunity here. What actually has happened is so many additional things have opened because I have cleared my agenda from all of the thought and the energy that went into that relationship. And now a new launch came as a part of it, a new relationship with a whole other community opened as a part of it, new relationships opened that will far greater benefit me than that other relationship, which was, yes, a short-term, very huge win, but a long-term detrimental, things that were happening in my life that I think it just brought my energy down because I was so focused on that one relationship. So I think that we have to approach things with an attitude of how can I collaborate? How can I not be concerned necessarily with the outcome, but be concerned in the present moment right now? How can I actually serve in this present moment to that person that I have this relationship with?
I forget, someone recently asked me about my competition, and I'm so...
You have competition?
I'm so removed from that word. And I guess that's kind of the hope of today's show, is to really open up a new focal point for the word competition. I'm not saying that I don't acknowledge that other people do what I do, but I don't consider them competition because they're not me. I don't have any competition. I am who I am. The way I deliver things, the way that I'm unique in how I am, and as we all are.
I want to just add this because I think that something just opened to me that might help people that are not necessarily entrepreneurial focused or business focused. It's the relationship focus also. How about if you stop thinking about your partner, your significant other, the person you're involved in a relationship with, as your competition, but instead your collaborative partner? How about your ally? Instead of working against them, why are they always want to be right about this? Why is it that I'm always feeling like I am at odds with that person? Looking at it with an empathetic or a compassionate position of understanding why is it, where are they operating from? And I think that would open up a door to a whole bigger conversation other than just in business. I know that's not where we're heading. Just
No,
in
we are
business.
going to go there.
Right. Okay.
We're going to go there because I want to move this to a relationship, to
Yeah.
dating and to relationships.
Yeah.
Doug and I did an episode in the Inner Circle called The 5 Losing Strategies in Relationships. It came right out of Dr. Terry Real's The New Rules of Marriage.
I thought you were going to say they came out of watching me in relationships.
That's a whole nother book. That's a whole nother book, Michael Neely. No, I'm kidding. We read The New Rules of Marriage. I had Dr. Terrence Real on the show, and some of the concepts that I really appreciated were the 5 losing strategies in relationship, but it's also the 5 losing strategies in all relationships, not just your partner. So I want to bring this conversation into relationships, both dating and in, marriage or dating situations. And if you think about, let's take the dating first. So one of us here at the table is single. But if you take it from a dating perspective, those of you that are looking for love, and I've got several of you who are listening who I know are right on the edge of, okay, it's time for me to date and I need to get out there. And I know what's stopping a lot of people, besides COVID, what's stopping a lot of people from dating is this idea that if I meet with one person, there's all of a sudden there's this pressure of, am I going to be competing against the other women or men who you looked at on the dating site? Or are you going to be everything that I need? And am I going to be everything you need? Or am I going to have to jump through hoops to make you like me? And what happens if there's too much of that? So from that perspective, one of the things that I sort of want to put out there is, again, what we're talking about in business, but it translates in every aspect of life. If you like who you are, if you know who you are, if you know what you want, then you don't have any competition. This weekend we're spending with Michael here in Santa Cruz, and for the first time I got to meet his ex-wife who he has his son with. And
which one? Oh, the one here.
Which one? Yes, Michael has a few ex-wives. And I already know one of them, plus an ex-girlfriend, but this was the longest relationship and the only one with a child. And I got to meet her, and what I really appreciate about Michael's view of relationships is that just because we didn't work out doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with us. We learned what we needed to learn. We can remain friends and still love each other in a different form.
Yeah. I mean, we had her and her husband, my son's stepfather, over here to join us for dinner, and we had a great time all together.
Right. And I appreciate that is, while it's a whole nother conversation for lasting relationships, but what I do appreciate, because I am the same way, I feel very much like if I've been with somebody for any extended period of time, then you're part of my history. And if we're going to break up and move on, it's not some tragic, something's wrong with you, something's wrong with me. It's that we have ended our sacred contract and we've learned what we needed to learn. And now it's time to move on. But I don't look back and have like the unresolved anger and pain, and you let me down and this was a failure. And
Can we send this episode to my my most recent ex-wife?
She won't listen to it. She won't listen to it. But right, it's about again taking the broader perspective of that. This is not a competition. This is not a all or nothing. This is life, and if I've spent time with you and I've cared about you, why would I want you? Even if I don't want to be married to you anymore or dating you, why would I want to get rid of you? It feels so. And I think it's because most people don't want to feel the pain. It's because they don't want to deal with the lessons that they learned and why this might have needed to happen for them. They want to just get rid of it and cut it off. And they think that if they cut it off, they're not going to feel the pain of whatever happened or transpired in that relationship, aka your ex-wife, right? But it's really about growing into, again, that deeper sense of there is no competition. If you know who you are, you like yourself, you value yourself, and you respect yourself, then there is no such thing as competition.
I've got a question for you, though, that it's interesting, and I agree with you 100%. As a matter of fact, though, where it comes up in relationship, and I know maybe this isn't your relationship particular show, but I do not feel there's competition when I'm in relationship with a woman. I feel like, look, if you look at another guy and they excite you and you're interested, great, good for you. You can go be with them if that's what you want. I don't feel jealous. I don't get jealous because I'm comfortable with who I am. I don't look at them as competition because that's over there in your court anyway. That's about you, what you're up to and what you may want. Now, the question out of this, though, is, and I know this is not your relationship show per se.
Well, they all are.
Okay. Well, some women want you to be jealous. I've been in relationships where they're like, you don't get jealous or anything. I'm like, what's there to be jealous of? If you fall in love with someone else, you're going to fall in love with someone else. I will move on to the next relationship or be out of a relationship for a while.
Michael has never been in love.
It has nothing to do with me. No, I have, but it's just.
Are you sure?
Well,
man,
the thing
a hard pill to swallow.
But what can I do about it? I am who I am. You either love me or you don't, and I can't change that. And so I'm like, I've got to let it go. And I'm hoping that you will love me for who I am. And if you don't, okay. I'm not saying I'm not going to be hurt or anything, but I'm not going to be jealous and sit there and worry.
Well, you're a more evolved, conscious man for the most part. There's some subjects you and I butt heads on, but otherwise, generally, you've done men's groups. You have a show called Consciously Speaking, right? You're interested in the inner workings, belief systems, patterns, habits, all that kind of stuff. You aren't afraid to take a look at some of that. A lot of men aren't. And so then we go to that primitive caveman part of our brain of survival. And when we're not in our conscious brain, so I think you live more in your conscious brain, and I think a lot of people don't, especially men, because they just react. They're just sort of going along, and then if something happens, then they react, and it's not conscious. It's coming from that, again, that primitive part of our survival brains, which is not our conscious brain. And so that would be my answer to what I think happens there. And not that jealousy is a bad thing, but when women do use it to manipulate men, that's unfair. And it does happen. And I've done it too. I remember years and years ago in a relationship, I absolutely did use it. And I'm not necessarily proud of that, but it was a tactic. It was a tactic because I felt powerless. I felt like I was losing a love that I wanted to get back. And that I was grasping at straws, so to speak, of like, how do I get you to care? Oh, I'm going to go try to make you jealous now. It's not a pretty moment. It's desperation, which is the opposite of what I'm talking about. The opposite of what I'm talking about in this show is about the whole confidence, collaboration, trust, abundance, and allowing, not the behavior like that means I'm not trusting and allowing. And I wasn't in that place. Now, that was probably 10, 15 years, that was like 15, 18 years ago. It was, I've done a lot of growing since then. But in relationships, in the dating situation, if you're out there and you're getting ready to date, this is a great time for you to really get to know who you are, what you bring to the table, we had our first live mastermind meeting in Atlanta in June. And for some of the ladies in the group, one of the things that they needed was a reminder of why they deserve to have a successful business and why they deserve to delegate and get help and support and why they were worthy of charging money and what they brought to the table, not only in their business, but in relationships. And so if you're struggling with dating or liking yourself more and you're always giving your power away to other people to judge you or to tell you who you are and what you do well, this would be a great time to pull out that journal and start making a list of what you like about yourself. What do I appreciate about myself? And if there are things that you want to change, which is totally fine. Like some of you might say, I want to take better care of myself. I want to eat better. I want to exercise more. I want to be nicer to myself. Well, this is the first way in how you're going to do that. Take out that list and on a daily basis, just decide today I appreciate that I received being made breakfast. I have literally sat in this seat at this table and done nothing. Michael and Doug have literally done everything, and I have allowed myself to receive it because I'm normally the one doing all of the cooking and serving.
It feels good because she's not wearing any clothing, so that's always good.
That's always makes it a big plus.
That's a big plus.
You weren't supposed to tell them how I got you to do all that stuff.
Hey, I got to add something too that it made me think when we're talking about relationships and then back on the list. I probably have only married 1% of the women that I've dated, so that's 99% of those women I could refer to other single guys.
That's good. That's a good idea, Michael.
Talk about collaboration.
Maybe you should start a site of the women I've dated and who's right for you.
Right.
Let me give them positive reviews. Let me tell you.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
It's called Podcasters Partners. It is a new dating site available to you ladies coming up very soon.
It's going to be another show that Michael adds to his belt for here, let me help you. Let me tell you all the ex-wives I've had.
Well, we already called We already have a show name for that. It's called Relationships.
Right.
That's right.
That never
That's
got
right.
off the ground.
No,
I don't
it
know
it was
that it
fun
really.
while it lasted.
Yeah, it was.
Didn't last very long.
Didn't last.
So today's episode about collaboration, not competition. I want to see how you can utilize this in your life. So we've mentioned a couple different areas. The first one being if you own a business or have a business or do anything where you would feel like you're in competition with someone. How this applies if you have a job and you have a boss and you can get promoted or you can get a raise, right? It also applies in relationships when dating. And when thinking, I always liken it to shopping. So what I tell the women that I work with and some of the men, when you're looking at dating, pretend you're shopping. You go to the store and if you try something on and you like it, you take it home. But then sometimes like shoes, right? And you get home and the shoes are like, oh, these are annoying. These don't fit very well. And you take them back. So that is what dating is. Take it a little less serious. You're not going out and getting married on the first date. And nor are you saying to the person, hey, could I marry you? And if not, let's not waste our time. Like maybe get to the place where you're having a little fun, lighten up a little, learn to enjoy the moment and then learn something from it and move on. Have good boundaries, get clear about what you like and what you don't like. And for those of you that have been with the same person for so long and you haven't dated, this isn't about picking the right person the first go around. This is about testing what you like, finding out what is it. One guy or girl is going to show you something you didn't even know that you enjoyed. And oh my gosh, they're going to teach that to you. Now, they might not be the right person for you in the long run, but they showed you how important that one aspect was. Now, let's bring this quickly into the relationship. So I already have a relationship, and let's talk about collaboration versus competition as it affects marriages and dating relationships. So in terms of collaboration versus competition, I know for some of us, we have experienced, let's say, partners who have the opposite viewpoint than we do.
Really?
Yes. And how does that affect a relationship?
When we have opposite viewpoints, I think in my case, it has had both impacts. Like there have been relationships where I've been like that, where it has had a devastating impact and that I'm like, wow, we can't continue to be together. And there've been other ones where it's been healthy, like a healthy difference that kind of we bonded around. But I think the underlying factor that needs to be considered is how attached you are to making the other person agree with your way of thinking. Is that making sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I know for me in a past relationship, the scarcity level was way high. Mm-hmm. And how that affected me was I took less risk. I did not allow myself to do what I would normally do because I was always worried about what the other person would think. Now, that's not their fault because I know for a fact I helped them feel more abundant when I would take risk and it would work out. And they were like, wow, you're amazing how you manifested that. But I know that I was holding myself back. And so not to blame the other person, but you do have to be in check about the belief system and the energy in your relationship. It doesn't mean you have to leave them. It's figuring out how to balance and find how you can spread your wings and not feel contained and controlled while still respecting the other person and not blaming them for your lack of feeling abundant. That's on you, not them.
Right.
There's also a feeling of not competing with your partner or not having to always feel right when you're presenting your partner with an idea. In many cases, if we have somebody that's in your community, JJ, if somebody is more entrepreneurial in their lifestyle and with their business growth, and they have a partner that might be a little bit more conservative, or they might be really comfortable in a 9-to-5 or like the security of a 9-to-5, rather than feeling like it always has to be a competition, just understand from the point of view that your partner is looking at life. Your partner, if you're an entrepreneur, look at the positive aspects of your partner when it comes to they like the W-2 lifestyle. They like the security of knowing they have a specific place that they go every day from 9-to-5. And I would not necessarily look at that and say, man, that's a horrible thing. You have no growth opportunity. Maybe look at it from their perspective and thinking, okay, you like the security. I like the adventure. I'm an adventure kind of person. So just keep in mind the point of view of your partner when you're in the relationship. It's don't feel like you're competing against them because you're an entrepreneur and they're a little bit more conservative when it comes to what their business lifestyle is. Just know that it is there is a healthy balance for both of those within the relationship, and don't feel you're competing against that person.
Yeah, and sometimes the competition may not even be with the partner itself, but as an example, in my relationships, I have a 17-year-old son. He's got one more year of high school, and then he's going to be leaving the nest. And so I've been in relationships where the new partner has felt competition for my time.
Wow.
And that can be a challenge. And so instead, let's collaborate. Let's find a way that we can meet everybody's needs, including my own too, because one of the things that I have a big need of is my own time, my solo time. And so, and I also get this too, that you may not find that workable zone. You could be in a relationship with a partner that needs a lot more attention and time than you can give when you're trying to split it between having your own time, building your business, having a son or a child that you want to spend time with as well. So it can be a balancing act, and it's not always going to be a fit.
Yeah, and with this idea of collaboration in relationship and in business, not competition, I just want to be really clear to sort of finish out the show and to really hit this home for you. While I want to encourage people to come from abundance and not scarcity, that doesn't mean you don't have discernment. That doesn't mean that you promote everybody. It doesn't mean you don't have high standards or good boundaries. Right. So I may feel like I don't have any competition and therefore I am open to sharing other people's stuff. But in the case, let's say, of this particular show and my podcasts, I feel a sense of responsibility to those of you that are listening to me to share with you the best of the best that I trust, because I'm bringing them on this show and you're hearing about them. And if you like them and resonate them, and then you pay for them and you use them and you work with them, there's a level of responsibility on me, I feel, because I'm putting them in front of you. So I have very high standards and I have very good boundaries. At the same time, I also only from my intuition and what feels authentic and what feels an integrity present to you. So that's why, I got this idea when Michael and I and Doug were at an event about, again, it relates completely to Michael's next event coming up, his new podcast he has, my mastermind. It really was the ground, the grounding point of the next thing for me, which said, I don't want to operate like this anymore. I don't want to be in a business situation where everyone feels like they're competing against each other. The bottom line is when you go to the store and you see 10 different flavors of ice cream or 10 different brands, you pick the one you like, you don't like it, you try another one. No one is going to dominate the market in any field in any way, and you're not only going to ever have just one choice. So the reality of it is you're going to attract the right kind of client and or person for you if you're dating or have a business, and the right kind of relationships. But is, again, the spotlight's on the abundance, not scarcity, that there's enough to go around. And Doug and Michael and I feel are a really great example of that, especially Doug and Michael, because they both do more podcast teaching, like how to teach how to do a podcast. I don't do that. I podcast coach, but I'm not the here, do my program to launch your podcast. But the two of them are best friends and they have the same kind of business structure, but they support each other without hesitation because they love each other. And we would do that for other people too, again, with the integrity of, do you actually care about your clients? Is your program actually any good? So just know that when you're going into any kind of business, or it's not about all of a sudden an all or nothing. I'm going to promote everybody. I'm going to tell everybody. No, you still have your boundaries. You still have your integrity, your authenticity, and your discernment about somebody. But then you share openly and willingly, trusting that everything is in right and perfect divine timing. So with that said, I am going to allow them and want them to just tell you what they're doing. So in case it does resonate with you, because I've often said to a lot of you, don't listen to someone. I have a client who she was on such a good place with me, and then she had taken a break, and then she went to somebody else's website that was on my show, and then went to the person's website and took a quiz, and then watched a video, and all of a sudden took what that person said completely to heart and was devastated. And I got that person later and I said, well, does that person resonate with you? Does it resonate? And if you actually think about it, and she said, no. I said, okay, then why did you listen to it? Like, you took what they said because they're some sort of expert? That doesn't matter. Did it resonate with you? If it doesn't resonate with you, then let go of it. It's not right for you, or it's not right for you right now. So for those of you that are in business, maybe you're thinking about podcasting or just some kind of coaching program or something, I'm going to start with Michael. Michael, why don't you just tell everybody about the launch you have coming up and any information about how to get to it? And
yeah, well, right now I am gearing up for the re-release because it's a podcast training program I've had for years. It was originally called Zero to Launch in 14 Days, and I've revamped the entire thing because, as you know, JJ, so much has changed in the industry just in the last 6 months to a year. So I had to rewrite the entire course, and I made it even bigger and better, and it's called the Zero to Launch Podcast Accelerator. And right now we are in our what I would call cart open launch / mode, because we're trying to get a bunch of people in to like kick off the program in style. And so I'm happy to give a free gift to anybody who may want it. It's the simple 5-step process to launch a rockin' podcast in just 14 days. We can put the link there in the show notes. If anybody wants it, it's a freebie. And then during this week of the launch, we'll be doing a lot of trainings around that and other cool elements that will help you whether or not you start a podcast.
so make sure to click the link in the show notes. You got to go to the More tab or the Show Me More tab, depending on what kind of podcast player that you use. But go to the link and get Michael's free gift and then check it out. You know, Michael's been on the show many times. He's done several of my events. I love him dearly. He's got a good heart. He's conscious. He's full of love. He cares. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be my friend. But he's been on, we've been friends and doing each other's shows since 2014, 2015. And I love you. So thanks for being here and sharing all of your wisdom. Mr. Doug Sandler.
So in the true spirit of collaboration, I would also encourage you to take Michael's program. I mean, I'm telling you, honest to God's truth, it's a great program. While I haven't seen the actual makeup of the program, I've read the book that he has written that's going to be the design of the course itself. I think it's a great course. I think it's something that if you're thinking about podcasting, absolutely. Yes, we have a program also, but Michael's in the middle of a launch right now. So if you're listening to this and it's before what date?
August 4th through 14 will be in launch mode.
Of 2020, hop into Michael's program. It's great, and I think it would be a major win for you. And the program will take you through the course of a year, right, Michael?
Yeah, it lasts a whole year, but come on, Doug. I mean, you've got an amazing program.
Okay, so if
that's kicking ass.
And I appreciate that. If you are a podcaster right now, or if you're just like podcast curious and you're trying to figure out if something like either Michael's program or podcasting is for you, or you just don't even understand the elements of things like funnels and landing pages and lead magnets and all of that stuff, JJ and I have a free masterclass. Feel free to sit in on it. It's August 3rd. It's in the afternoon. It's called Funnel Cake, and it really is a recipe for success when it comes to putting together your program. So any program for that matter. But honestly, yes, we do have a program, but we are launching cyclically all the time. We are under the sun. If the sun is revolving around the moon, if the moon is revolving around the sun and earth and stars, we are having a launch at some point. But right now, Michael's in the hunt. So I would say hop into Michael's program. It is great. And
you're way too kind.
Funnel Cake is also good too.
Absolutely. And it's not in the afternoon, it's in the evening. But let's do turnkeypodcast.com/funnel. turnkeypodcast.com/funnel to get to the webinar masterclass. It will not be recorded. So if you want the information, you have to come live to the class.
And JJ and Doug put the fun in funnels.
We do. And we put the fun in dysfunctional also.
That's another podcast that we can record next. So, and then for any of you that are listening, I haven't officially, I guess today's show will be the official opening of the application system for my mastermind. So if you would like to be considered, you can go over to jjsinnercirclemastermind.com. jjsinnercirclemastermind.com.
One more time slower. I'm typing this in my phone right now.
JJ's innercirclemastermind.com.
Awesome.
All the links that we talked about today will be in the show notes for you guys. But I am going to be taking applications for 2021. Getting in early gets you a lot of information and education to get you started earlier. You don't have to sign up now, but if you're interested and we want to have some conversations, then go check that out. But if you're launching a podcast, Michael Neely, if you want to learn about funnels and sales pages and all that kind of good stuff, come to our webinar. And of course, follow both of them. Let's just also go over your podcast. So you can go to michaelneely.com. Michael, tell everybody about your shows.
Oh my God. Okay, so I have my firstborn was Consciously Speaking. Been around since originally 2014, 2015. And my second one is Buy This, Not That. And then Something to Whine About, which of course we co-host together, you and I, JJ, along with Melanie Benson. And then and actually we should make Doug an official co-host at
We
some
really
point
should.
because he's in there all the time too. And then the other one is the latest one, the PodQuest show. But I also want to say this about Collaborate. If I can plant the seed, because you know how you're supposed to speak something out to the universe when you got these ideas. So just this weekend together, we've already come up with a couple of ideas of stuff that we're going to create together as collaborative processes and programs that are going to be real exciting. So I'm just letting you know, keep an eye out for that.
Fueled by mimosas.
That'd be a good podcast.
Fueled by mimosas.
All right, you are a podcast addict when it comes to like wanting new ones, and you still have another one to do that we're doing together. But let's talk about your shows.
Turnkeypodcast.com. That's probably the best place to start if you have any curiosity about podcasting. The Nice Guys on Business podcast is a great spot to learn about business and a fun way to look at business. If you're a Mustang fan, Ford Mustang, the Early Years podcast. Wow, the BizWiz podcast, you want a fun little formulaic approach to business. SEDx, if you're somebody that's a TEDx speaker and want to understand how to get your message out to the world. And I'm sure there's another one in there, Women, Men, and
The
Relationships.
BizWiz, that's still out there?
Yeah, BizWiz is still out there, absolutely. So, yeah, there's a half a dozen or so, but you pick. The roulette wheel of podcasting choice is yours when you go with Doug Sandler.
Well, thank you, gentlemen, for doing this show with me again. I know that it was complete divine timing, that I did not like the recording quality of the last time we did this. I had the idea, we did it quickly, and it was obviously meant to incubate a little bit more and to culminate into this time and space because I couldn't imagine being in business and working with two better people. So I appreciate all that you do, and I love you.
We love you too, and it's so great to be here.
We should continue podcasting naked just like this.
I think it worked really well.
It actually worked out really well.
All right, guys, I wasn't really naked. Okay, see ya. Bye.